Okay, so today we're going to deep dive into what it takes to become an air traffic instructor. And we've got some great resources from RoleCatcher to help us with this. We've got their career guides and their interview guide, and even some info on how we can use their AI tools to get ready.
It's interesting. This whole thing about becoming an air traffic instructor, it's not just about like teaching people how to, direct planes. It's really about making sure that the next generation of air traffic controllers are like totally ready to handle like anything that gets thrown at them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The stakes are so high in air traffic control, so you really need those future controllers to be able to think on their feet and make the right call no matter what.
Right, exactly. And that's what makes these interview questions from RoleCatcher so fascinating. They're really designed to dig deep and see if you've got what it takes to not only teach the technical stuff, but to also instill that like deep sense of responsibility and confidence in your trainees.
I see what you mean. Like, it's one thing to know the procedures, but it's another thing entirely to be able to stay calm and make the right decisions when things get crazy.
Exactly. And that's what those interviewers are going to be looking for.
So let's jump into these questions. The first one from the RoleCatcher Interview Guide is, can you tell me about your experience working in air traffic control? Pretty standard question, you'd think.
It is a pretty standard question,
Yeah.
but there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to approach it.
Okay, so what's the wrong way?
Well, the wrong way would be to just like rattle off a list of jobs you've had. Like, oh, I worked at this airport for 5 years and then I moved to this control center for 3 years. That doesn't really tell them anything about what you've actually learned or how you've grown as a controller.
Right, it's like reading a resume.
Exactly.
So what's the right way to answer this question then?
You got to tell a story. Paint a picture for them. Put them in your shoes and let them experience what it's really like to be an air traffic controller.
Okay, I like that.
So instead of just saying, I have 10 years of experience, you could say something like, I remember the first time I had to handle a solo shift in the tower. The pressure was intense, but I knew I had to stay focused and make sure every plane landed safely. That experience taught me the importance of clear communication, quick thinking, and unwavering attention to detail.
That's so much better.
Right. You're not just listing facts, you're showcasing your skills and your passion.
And I bet that kind of answer will lead to some great follow-up questions too.
Oh, absolutely. They might ask you about a specific challenging situation you've faced or how you've handled a particularly stressful scenario.
That's your chance to really shine.
Exactly. And you know what's really cool? RoleCatcher's AI tools can actually help you practice these kinds of answers.
Oh, really? How so?
You can record yourself answering the questions, and their AI will analyze your response. It can tell you if you're using the right tone of voice, if you're highlighting the right skills, and if you're coming across as confident and engaging.
That's amazing.
It's like having a personal interview coach in your pocket.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. RoleCatcher asks, how do you ensure that you maintain situational awareness at all times during air traffic control operations? Now, situational awareness is obviously crucial in this job.
It's absolutely essential. It's not just about seeing the planes on the radar screen. It's about understanding the entire airspace, anticipating potential conflicts, and being ready to act decisively if something unexpected happens.
So it's almost like having a sixth sense for what's going on up there.
Exactly. You have to be constantly scanning for potential threats, thinking several steps ahead, and communicating effectively with pilots and other controllers.
Okay, so how do you convey that level of awareness in an interview?
Talk about the specific techniques you use. For example, you could say something like, I make it a habit to constantly monitor the radio frequencies, even when I'm not directly responsible for a particular sector. That way, I'm always aware of what's happening in the surrounding airspace, and I can anticipate potential issues before they become problems. You could also talk about how you use visualization techniques to maintain your mental picture of the airspace. Like, I imagine the planes moving through the sky, tracking their trajectories, and constantly assessing the potential for conflicts.
That's a great way to show them that you're not just passively watching the radar screen.
Right, you're actively engaged and thinking critically about the situation.
And I bet they'll probably have some follow-up questions about how you've handled specific situations where your situational awareness was really put to the test.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They might ask you something like, have you ever had a situation where you had to make a split-second decision to avoid a potential collision? What did you do, and how did you maintain your composure under pressure?
That's where those stories about your past experiences will really come in handy.
Exactly. It's all about showing them that you've got the skills and the experience to handle the unexpected.
All right, let's move on to question number 3. RoleCatcher asks, how do you manage competing priorities and demands during high-stress air traffic control situations?
This is a really important one. Because air traffic control can be incredibly demanding. There's always a lot going on, and you have to be able to prioritize tasks, make quick decisions, and stay calm under pressure.
So they're really trying to gauge your ability to handle the stress of the job.
Exactly.
So what are some good ways to answer this question?
You could talk about how you break down complex tasks into smaller, more manageable steps, or how you use checklists and procedures to make sure you don't miss anything important. You could also talk about how you delegate tasks to other controllers when appropriate.
So it's about showing them that you're organized, efficient, and able to work effectively as part of a team.
Right. And don't forget to mention how you manage your own stress, whether it's taking deep breaths, visualizing a calm environment, or using positive self-talk.
It's important to show them that you have healthy coping mechanisms.
Absolutely. They want to know that you can handle the pressure without burning out.
And I'm sure they'll probably have some follow-up questions about specific times when you had to manage multiple priorities under stressful conditions.
Oh yeah, for sure. They might ask you something like, tell me about a time when you had to handle multiple emergencies at the same time. How do you prioritize your actions and what was the outcome?
This is another great opportunity to use those stories from your past experiences to showcase your skills and your ability to handle pressure.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI tools can help you practice your answers to these questions, so you can go into that interview feeling confident and prepared.
I love how these AI tools can really level the playing field for job seekers.
Me too. It's like having access to a whole team of career coaches and mentors right at your fingertips.
Okay, let's move on to question number 4 from the RoleCatcher Guide. It says, can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision in air traffic control? Now, this sounds pretty similar to that last question about managing competing priorities under stress.
It is similar, but this one is more specifically focused on your decision-making process. They want to hear about a time when you had to weigh different factors, consider the potential consequences, and ultimately make a tough call.
So it's about showing them that you can think critically, analyze risks, and make sound judgments even when there's no easy answer.
Exactly.
What kind of story would be a good example for this question?
Maybe you had a situation where you had to decide whether to divert a plane due to bad weather. Or maybe you had to make a call about whether to allow a plane to land with a potential mechanical issue, whatever the situation. Make sure you walk them through your thought process, explain the factors you considered, and describe the outcome.
So it's not just about what you decided, but also why you decided it.
Right. You want to show them that you have a solid understanding of the rules and regulations, that you can assess risks effectively, and that you're willing to make tough calls when necessary.
And I bet they'll have some follow-up questions about how you felt during that situation.
Oh, yeah. They'll want to know if you were able to stay calm and collected under pressure. And they might even ask you if you would have done anything differently in hindsight.
That's a good opportunity to show them that you're always learning and growing from your experiences.
Exactly. Even the tough ones.
Now, we've talked a lot about the importance of telling stories and showcasing your skills through real-life examples. But what about those candidates who don't have a lot of experience in air traffic control yet?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that the RoleCatcher Career Guide actually addresses. It talks about how you can leverage your transferable skills from other fields to make yourself a more competitive candidate.
I love that idea.
Right. So even if you haven't worked in air traffic control before, you can still highlight your skills in communication, problem solving, decision making, teamwork, and leadership. All of those skills are valuable in any profession, and they're especially important in a high-stakes field like air traffic control.
So it's about finding those connections between your past experiences and the requirements of this role.
Exactly. And, RoleCatcher's AI tools can actually help you with this. They can analyze job descriptions and identify the key skills that employers are looking for, and then they can help you tailor your resume and cover letter to highlight those skills.
That's so helpful.
It's like having a personal career coach helping you craft the perfect application.
Okay, so we've covered 4 questions from the RoleCatcher Interview Guide so far. And we've also touched on some valuable career insights from their career guide. Plus, we've learned how their AI tools can help us prepare for every aspect of the interview. This is already so much valuable information.
It is, but we're just getting started. In the next part of this deep dive, we'll explore even more questions from the RoleCatcher Interview Guide, and we'll delve deeper into their career insights and AI tools.
I'm excited to keep learning. This is really helping me feel more confident and prepared for that interview.
Me too. And remember, with the right preparation and the right tools, you can totally ace that interview and land your dream job as an air traffic instructor.
I'm ready to take on the challenge.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
So you know what's really cool about this whole air traffic control thing? It's not just about like memorizing a bunch of rules and procedures. It's really about like understanding human behavior, like how pilots think, how they react under pressure, and how to communicate effectively in those like high stress situations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like you're not just directing planes, you're managing people
Mm,
and making sure that everyone is making safe and smart decisions.
right, exactly. And that brings us to our next question from the RoleCatcher Interview Guide. Question number 5 is, what are your strengths as an instructor?
Okay, so this one is pretty straightforward. It's a classic interview question. But I'm sure there are some nuances to consider when it comes to this specific role.
Oh, definitely. It's not enough to just say, I'm a good communicator or I'm patient. You got to tie your strengths back to the specific skills and qualities that are essential for being an effective air traffic instructor.
Okay, so what kind of strengths are they looking for?
Well, think about what makes a great air traffic controller. Calm under pressure, able to make quick decisions, strong communication skills, attention to detail. Those are all essential qualities for an instructor as well.
Right, because you need to be able to model those behaviors for your trainees.
Exactly. So when you're answering this question, don't just list your strengths. Give specific examples of how you've demonstrated those strengths in the past.
Okay, so for example,
You could say something like, I'm really good at breaking down complex information into smaller, more digestible chunks. And I'm always patient and supportive when my trainees are struggling to grasp a new concept. I remember one time when I was training a new controller on how to use the radar system. She was really overwhelmed at first, but I was able to break down the process into smaller steps and provide her with clear and concise instructions. By the end of the training session, she was confident and competent in her ability to use the radar system.
that's a great example.
You're not just saying, I'm a good teacher. You're showing them that you have the skills and the experience to effectively train air traffic controllers.
And I bet that kind of answer will lead to some great follow-up questions too.
Oh, absolutely. They might ask you about specific challenges you've faced as an instructor or how you've dealt with difficult trainees.
That's another opportunity to showcase your skills and your experience.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to question number 6. RoleCatcher asks, what is your approach to training air traffic controllers?
So this question is getting at your teaching philosophy. They want to know how you think about training and how you approach the task of developing competent and confident air traffic controllers.
So it's more about your overall strategy rather than specific techniques.
Right. It's about painting a picture of how you create a positive and effective learning environment.
Okay, so what are some key things to keep in mind when answering this question?
Well, first of all, you want to emphasize the importance of safety. Air traffic control is all about safety. And it's crucial that your trainees understand that from day one.
Right, you need to instill that safety-first mindset in them.
Exactly. You could say something like, I always start my training sessions by emphasizing the critical role that air traffic controllers play in ensuring the safety of air travel. And I make sure that my trainees understand that every decision they make has the potential to impact lives.
That sets the tone right from the start.
It does. And then you want to talk about how you create a supportive and engaging learning environment, where trainees feel comfortable asking questions, making mistakes, and learning from those mistakes.
So it's about fostering a culture of open communication and continuous improvement.
Exactly. You could say something like, I encourage my trainees to ask questions and to challenge assumptions. I want them to feel like they're part of a team where everyone is working together to learn and grow.
I like that.
And you also want to highlight your use of different teaching methods like lectures, simulations, case studies, group projects, whatever works best for your trainees.
So it's about being flexible and adaptable.
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to training. You got to be able to tailor your methods to the individual needs of your trainees.
And I bet RoleCatcher's AI tools can help you with this too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They can analyze your teaching style and suggest different methods and techniques that might be effective.
That's awesome.
It's like having a personal teaching consultant right there in your pocket.
All right, let's move on to question number 7.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher asks, how do you instill a strong safety culture in your trainees?
This is another really important one because, as we've already discussed, safety is paramount in air traffic control. It's not just about following the rules. It's about developing a mindset where safety is always the top priority.
Right, it's about creating a culture where everyone is constantly thinking about safety and looking for ways to improve it.
Exactly.
So how do you instill that kind of culture in your trainees?
Well, it starts with you. You have to be a role model. You have to demonstrate that you're committed to safety in everything you do.
So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. You could say something like, I always make sure to follow all safety procedures, even when it's inconvenient or time-consuming, and I encourage my trainees to do the same.
So it's about setting the standard.
It is. And then you want to talk about how you create a learning environment where safety is everyone's responsibility,
Hmm.
where trainees feel comfortable speaking up if they see something that's unsafe.
So it's about empowering them to be proactive about safety.
Exactly. You could say something like, I encourage my trainees to report any potential safety hazards they observe, and I make sure that they know that their concerns will be taken seriously.
That's so important.
It is, because even the smallest safety violation can have serious consequences in air traffic control.
And I bet they'll probably ask you about specific times when you've had to address safety issues in your training.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They might ask you something like, tell me about a time when you had to correct a trainee who was not following safety procedures. How did you handle this situation?
That's a great opportunity to showcase your leadership skills and your commitment to safety. Okay, let's move on to question number 8. RoleCatcher asks, how do you handle a trainee who is struggling to grasp a particular concept or skill?
This question is all about your ability to adapt your teaching style to meet the individual needs of your trainees, because not everyone learns at the same pace or in the same way.
Right? Some people are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some are kinesthetic learners.
Exactly. And as an instructor, you got to be able to identify those different learning styles and adjust your teaching accordingly.
So what are some good ways to answer this question?
Well, you could talk about how you assess your trainees' learning styles early on. Maybe you give them a quick quiz, or you just observe how they interact with the material, and then you can use that information to tailor your instruction.
Okay, so for example,
If you have a trainee who's a visual learner, you might use more diagrams, charts, and videos in your training. If you have a trainee who's an auditory learner, you might use more lectures and group discussions.
and if you have a trainee who's a kinesthetic learner, you might use more simulations and hands-on activities.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works best for each individual trainee.
And I bet RoleCatcher's AI tools can help you with this too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They can analyze your trainees' learning styles and suggest different teaching methods and resources.
That's amazing.
It's like having a personalized learning plan for each of your trainees.
All right, let's move on to question number 9. RoleCatcher asks, how do you stay current on the latest developments in aviation technology and regulations?
So this question is all about demonstrating your commitment to continuous learning. Because the world of aviation is constantly evolving. New technologies are emerging, new regulations are being implemented, and as an air traffic instructor, you've got to stay ahead of the curve.
Right, you need to make sure that you're teaching your trainees the most up-to-date information.
Exactly.
So what are some good ways to show them that you're committed to staying current?
You could talk about the professional organizations you belong to, like the National Air Traffic Controllers Association or the Air Traffic Control Association. You could mention the conferences and workshops you attend, the journals and publications you read, the online resources you use.
So it's about painting a picture of someone who's actively engaged in the field and always seeking out new information.
Right. You're not just showing up to work and doing the bare minimum. You're passionate about air traffic control, and you're always looking for ways to learn and grow.
And I bet they'll probably ask you about specific examples of how you've incorporated new technologies or regulations into your training.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They might ask you something like, tell me about a recent technological advancement in air traffic control. How did you learn about it, and how did you integrate it into your training curriculum?
That's a great opportunity to showcase your knowledge and your ability to adapt to change.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to question number 10. RoleCatcher asks, how do you foster a positive and collaborative learning environment for your trainees?
So this question is all about creating a supportive and encouraging atmosphere where trainees feel comfortable learning and growing.
Right, because learning can be stressful,
Yeah.
especially in a high-pressure field like air traffic control.
Exactly. So it's important to create an environment where trainees feel safe to make mistakes and to ask for help.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, first of all, you got to be approachable and supportive. You want to be someone that your trainees feel comfortable coming to with questions or concerns.
So it's about building rapport with them.
It is. And then you want to create opportunities for collaboration and teamwork, because air traffic control is not a solo sport, it's a team effort.
Right, controllers have to work together to keep the skies safe.
Exactly. So you want to give your trainees opportunities to practice those teamwork skills in a safe and supportive environment.
Okay, so what are some examples of how you could do that?
You could have them work on group projects or simulations. You could encourage them to help each other out with their studies. You could even have them role play different scenarios.
Those are great ideas.
And RoleCatcher's AI tools can actually help you with this too. They can analyze the dynamics of your training group and suggest different activities and strategies to promote collaboration and teamwork.
That's incredible.
It's like having a virtual team-building facilitator right there in your pocket.
Okay, so we've covered 10 questions from the RoleCatcher interview guide so far. We've talked about everything from situational awareness to safety culture to teaching philosophy to creating a positive learning environment. This is a lot to think about.
It is. But remember, the more prepared you are, the more confident you'll be in that interview.
Right, and that confidence will shine through and make a great impression on the interviewers.
Exactly. Now, in the next part of this deep dive, we're going to shift gears a bit and focus on the career aspects of being an air traffic instructor.
I'm excited to hear more about that, so stay tuned, everyone.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the technical skills and knowledge that you need to be an air traffic instructor, but there's another really important aspect to all of this, and that's how you present yourself in the interview.
Oh yeah, for sure. First impressions are everything.
Exactly. You want to come across as confident, competent, and enthusiastic.
Like you're the kind of person who can inspire and motivate trainees.
Right. And that starts with how you look and how you carry yourself.
So dress for success.
Absolutely. A suit is always a good choice. But even if the company culture is more casual, you still want to make sure you're dressed professionally.
And make sure you're well groomed, too.
Right. No wrinkled clothes or messy hair.
Details matter.
They do. And don't forget the basics. Like making eye contact, smiling, firm handshake, all those little things add up.
It's about showing them that you're taking this seriously.
Exactly. And that you're excited about the opportunity.
Now, what about body language?
That's huge. You want to sit up straight, make eye contact, don't fidget or cross your arms.
It's about projecting confidence and engagement.
Right. You want to show them that you're present and that you're listening.
And don't be afraid to use your hands when you talk.
It can help you emphasize your points and come across as more passionate.
Okay, so we've talked about appearance and body language. What about the actual interview itself? Any tips for answering questions effectively?
Well, first of all, be prepared to tell stories.
We've talked about this before.
Right, but it's worth repeating. Stories are the best way to bring your skills and experience to life.
They make you more relatable and memorable.
Exactly. So think about some specific examples from your past that showcase your strengths as an instructor.
And practice telling those stories in a concise and engaging way.
Right. You don't want to ramble, but you also don't want to be too brief.
Find that sweet spot.
And another tip, be honest and authentic.
Don't try to be someone you're not.
Right. The interviewers can spot a fake from a mile away.
Just relax, be yourself, and let your passion for aviation shine through.
And don't forget to ask questions.
That's a good point.
It shows that you're curious and engaged.
And it gives you a chance to learn more about the company and the role.
Exactly. So have a few questions prepared in advance. But don't be afraid to deviate from your script if something else comes up during the conversation.
It's all about being present and responsive.
Right. And remember, the interview is a two-way street. It's not just about them evaluating you, it's also about you evaluating them.
That's a good point. You want to make sure that this is the right fit for you.
Exactly. So pay attention to the company culture, the team dynamics, the opportunities for growth. Make sure that this is a place where you can see yourself thriving.
All right, so to wrap up this deep dive, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the technical skills and knowledge you need to be an air traffic instructor. We've explored the key questions you're likely to face in the interview. And we've discussed some strategies for presenting yourself effectively. But most importantly, we've talked about the importance of passion and enthusiasm.
Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to set you apart from the other candidates.
That's what's going to make you a great air traffic instructor.
So go out there and rock that interview.
Good luck.